Alright, here we are. It's Halloween day. Scary. Anyway, yeah, end of October, here we are. So, for anybody who was seeing I think there was probably 6 subscribers to this channel. This is for the Mars Clipper Dreadnought channel. I was starting to do some kind of animation clips that were going to loosely follow the book I had written, or the series of books about Mars Clipper and all that stuff, and robots and spaceships and stuff. The big part of the Mars Clipper channel was going to be about the robots and spaceships and stuff like that. And recently I decided I was going to start trying to build a Mars rover type robot. And I live out here in the desert. I got like 40 acres of basically wasteland, which is perfect for building robots, right? So next couple of videos I'm going to kind of introduce what I'm working on and a little bit about the property and why it makes so much sense to test robots out here. Also, I still have the school bus, which I lived in the first couple years I was out here, and then later on I built the house. And I've started spending time in the bus again, so what I'm thinking going forward, I've got areas in the back of the house that are storage and a little workshop, and then a lot of the stuff I end up doing I just do outside because it's, you know, usually nice here. But I've also got the bus, which could be where I build some of the parts for the robots. I've got a 3D printer, and then I've got welder and grinders and, you know, that kind of stuff. I do a lot of metal work, so I figured, okay, what I wanted to do is kind of wake up this channel again, because I haven't uploaded anything for, man, like forever it seems like. So give you a quick overview of what the property looks like. I had already shot another video where I walked around and kind of showed things, so I'm going to do this introduction and then we'll tack that on the end so you can kind of get a context of where we are. This is old ranch land from Texas, roughly 100 miles from El Paso. The Mexican border is just over yonder. It's on the other side of these hills. So we're right south on the border. And so a lot of the projects that I had built when I was out here, for anybody who saw my main channel, I was trying to weld up bicycles and stuff like that. That ended up not working very well. But when I had the bus, oh, bird sitting over here. Hi, bird. I took all the seats out of the bus, so I got all this pile of scrap metal. There used to be a lot more, but I used up a lot of it. But I've got this metal, and I'm thinking we could make some of the robot parts out of that. So if you're familiar, if not, I'll put up a picture, but the basic idea is the Mars Rovers, Curiosity, Perseverance, Spirit, and Opportunity. 6-wheel robot, 6-wheel drive, kind of a crazy bogie suspension setup. So I just figured, man, while we're out here, since I've always wanted to do that, this would be the place to do it. So I've got little trails and stuff going all over out here that I was riding bicycles and pushing wheelbarrows and stuff like that on. So yeah, anyway, so this is kind of where we are and what we're doing. Alright, about 8:45 on October 20th, I don't know, Thursday maybe? It looks like a Thursday. This is that time of year when it's just right. It seems like it lasts about 2 weeks and then it goes to being too cold or too hot, and I'm not even quite past rattlesnake season because I just killed one like 4 or 5 days ago. I guess it was the day or two before the big rainstorm. Yeah, we had a rain and hail, pretty violent storm. Yeah, anyway. Just kind of wanted to remember it. It's like, yeah, tanks are all full and life is good. Bike shorts airing out from yesterday. Wait, yesterday? I think it was yesterday, day before. I don't know. Alright, we'll get going here. Today is the day I decided I'm going to make the next video, so for people that want to see the ranch, here it is. This is now the official, well, this is where we will do the official robot testing. I'm going to do a quick walk around here. So what I'm thinking is, like, you know, I've got, you know, this is where I used to park the truck, and I've got the driveway that I cleared. anything that's like, I cleared this with an axe and a shovel. You know, basically I angled it around so that I could leave the biggest bushes in place, and I just kind of knocked out the little ones so I could drive through here. But it's all done by hand. I didn't bring in a cat or anything like that. So anyway, but part of the process is like, yeah, so I got all this, you know, this would be perfect. I could just drive the robot around here, but as I go, it's got all of the little trails. And then I was looking a couple days ago, I'm like, oh, this would be great. I made all these little piles of dirt randomly, like, you know, when I was making a hole. So I got these dirt piles so the rover can, you know, we'll see if it can climb over stuff, right? And not tip over. That would be important. And then we have to figure out how to tell it not to drive in the holes, you know, because it probably go in there and die. The water usually isn't in there, but it did rain pretty good. That hole was right full. But yeah, we've got, you know, when I was, well, pretty much from since I got out here, I was always digging holes and finding rocks and bringing them back, right? So I've got, well, this is where the school bus used to be parked. This is kind of an open area. And then when I was testing the bicycles, I'm like, well, I'm not going to just drive up and down the driveway, so I started making trails and could ride it around in a pretty good trail. And then when I was getting ready for the bike trip, I was taking one of the bikes out here and just riding around and getting good exercise. So yeah, I've got, you know, piles and piles of rocks that I found. I think what I was thinking, it's kind of foggy in my head some days. Oh, this is also, every now and then I'd find, like after a rainstorm, the rain would wash a bunch of sand out, and you have this whole little berm of really nice clean sand, and then other piles of gravel. So this I had saved. When I found a bunch, I brought it up here and made a pile of sand and gravel for making concrete, and then the bigger rocks for, you know, if I was thinking I could build a rock wall or maybe a rock foundation for the house, which I didn't end up doing, or, you know, when I make my bunker, I got lots of rocks, or I could build a castle, or, you know, that kind of thing. So that was kind of the idea. So when I was still working for the Postal Service, when I had a day off or when I just needed a break, you know, come home after a day of work and you're like, oh, you just want to go do something physical for a while. So I'd go out and find rocks and just bring them back, and it gave me something to do. So in the process of doing that, I kind of made all these trails, and a lot of them are going to be about the right size for the robot. Okay. So yesterday, on the new phone, I didn't have it, so I had to put it on again, but I had this GPS tracking software. It records your track of where you went, right? So a lot of these trails, well, like yesterday, I walked around some of these same trails and I just recorded the track. And I made a little mark. You can add waypoints or whatever, thumbnails, push pins in the map. So I just marked rock pile, right? And so now later on, when the robot wants to go play on the rock pile, I can just follow the breadcrumb and know how to get there. Another pretty good pile of rocks. And this is all the stuff I find when I go for walks on the property. You know, all the old Coke bottles are probably from the Mexicans walking across. You know, they bring a couple Cokes with them and drop them. Some of them have the Mexican markings on them. Yeah. Oh, and a steering box off of somebody's old truck. Can't imagine they got very far without that. Maybe I found that one on the road though. It was just like, it had probably been there for 100 years, and then the rain came and washed it out again, right? Anyway, so yeah, this pile of dirt, there's a pile of rocks, great big pile of dirt. This all came from when I dug this hole. Oh, it's still got some water in it from the rain. The last few days I realized I walked out and the sun actually felt good instead of feeling like, oh my God, I need to get back inside and get out of the sun for a while. The famous quote from Kennedy, "Why are we going to the moon?" We're not going because it's easy, we're going because it's hard. And some would say it's just your misery, you know, you're trying to punish yourself or something. It's like, well, why do you go to school? Why does somebody purposely go to college? You know, it's to learn something. And, you know, for me, if I take on a task, it's a way for me to learn a skill that I don't really understand at the time. You know, I've seen a lot of people's videos about, you know, they wanted to learn how to weld, and so they had this project that they wanted to build because in the process of building it, they'll be a better welder. You know, and you build a robot, that's just about all the skills in one. You got design and inventing, and then you have fabrication, and then when you get the whole structure built, then you get into the whole, this is what mechatronics is actually. You got the machine and the electronics working together, and then you got the robotic stuff. And so, I mean, I could make a radio controlled version of this, which is how it's going to be in the beginning, just to prove that the mechanical side works. You know, so I can just have a push button control. It's like, okay, go forward, stop, turn left, go forward, that kind of thing. Okay, that's pretty simple. And if I stop there, it would still be interesting. Okay. But then, now with the internet, we've got so many people that are doing this, and everybody's sharing their ideas. So there's basically a recipe for these different ideas, and so you just say, okay, take this part, go to this place, buy this part, put them together, here's some software. You know, I can take a GPS track of all these little trails that I've made, and the robot could follow the trail and probably be in pretty good shape already. And there's been line following robots, geez, 30 years, 40 years probably by now. You know, where it's just, you know, if there's a black line, it follows the black line. Well, I'm not going to paint lines around here. But we got stuff like machine vision and artificial intelligence, where basically the robot could see the difference between a bush and the sand. If it sees the bush, it can identify that it can't drive over it. Okay, so then it would just drive around it. And there's enough spots out here, and I did this a few days ago. I just went for a walk. It's like, well, I'm not going to walk through there. That's a thicket. Okay, but if you just look a little bit, you can walk around it. Okay, and there's about probably 90% of the property that I could walk anywhere and not walk over a bush. And spots like that, you just don't go there. Okay, so if I can just tell the robot, okay, meet me at the gate, it would figure out where it is from its GPS, and then we can make it its own little version of a GPS map, and then it would say, all right, let's go to the gate. So the gate's over that way, and it would have an idea where it was closest to the nearest trail that it already knew. And then it would just navigate to the first trail and then drive on the trail. And then it would just be autopilot from there because it already knows how to get there, right? That would probably cover a lot. You know, that's the thing, is I'm not actually going for real to Mars. It's not, you know, it doesn't have to really do very much exploring to be useful. Because if I just say, okay, go out and do a perimeter, you know, like military. Okay, it drives around the property, and it could take pictures and send them back, right? That would be kind of cool, you know. Or it could drive out to a certain point, like say for instance, if I wanted to get a really cool picture of the sunrise, we come over here at about 6:30 and park, and we know where the sun should come up, you know, because it's predictable. Okay, so we just set the camera up here, and we run a time lapse. And it could then, you know, with sun tracking, like how you're supposed to do your solar panels, well, then it would just track and follow the sun across the sky, you know, make a cool shot. And then, you know, it could come back and do something else, and then about sunset, because my windows on the house, the way it turned out, only face east. I have no idea what the sunset is looking like unless I happen to walk outside. But if the rover was out here anyway, you know, the rover would be like, okay, it's about sunset, let's look in that direction. You know, okay. And then I could just look over at the computer monitor and get a feed from what it sees. Oh, that's kind of cool. So I'd walk out and watch the sunset. You know, so, and if it was a good one, then we'd save it and we'd upload it to the next video. That kind of stuff, right? And if it was just sitting here, it was like this morning. I walked out before sunrise. I don't usually do that, but this time I happened to be awake already, so I walked out and looked around a little bit and saw that there was no cloud, so I'm all excited because I got power. And I'm standing kind of over yonder somewhere, kind of forward of the bus and to the side on the driveway, and I just happened to be standing there looking around a little bit, wasn't moving. One of the rabbits comes bebopping almost up to me because I wasn't moving. The rabbit had no idea I was there, right? So I got to thinking about that. I was like, well, they get kind of used to me, but if I don't move, they kind of just don't notice me, right? So they would probably come right up to the robot too, right? So you get some really good shots of just randomly, the robot would be sitting out there with a video camera recording, and it might catch a rabbit walking past, or some other random thing or whatever. Well, then I was thinking, we've got these people doing artificial intelligence, and part of that, the way that that works, is the computer can look at the picture and identify what it is based on comparing it to a few thousand pictures of other things that it's seen, right? So I could train, I was, in the beginning I would just take a bunch of pictures of bushes so that the robot wouldn't run over the bush, and you get enough pictures of bushes so then the robot would be like, okay, that's definitely a bush. It's maybe not the same bush I've seen, but it's similar to the other bush. So we just know if we run over it, we'll get stuck and have flat tires, okay, because some of these have thorns. Okay. Well, then we could start taking pictures of rabbits, and then maybe I take a picture of the rattlesnake next time I see one. And, we could throw some pictures of cows in there. I have had cows walk through here, but in the last drought, most of the people that had cows sold them, although I have seen a few again come out. But if I just had the robot sitting out there some random place and something walked past it, one, it would notice that something was there and maybe start recording, and maybe it would follow it with the camera, right? So then we get an interesting picture that I would have missed. And maybe two, it could send me a text message that says, hey, yeah, there's a cow out here. I'd be like, what? How is that doing that? How does it know it's a cow? Well, I looked it up on the internet. It knows what cows look like. It's like, one, is it even worth doing? But it's kind of interesting to see. And two, the things you could learn just by doing them. It's kind of fun. Sometimes it's, it was in Disney, it's kind of fun doing the impossible. Yeah. Anyway, maybe I'll tack this on the end. Beautiful day. No wind at all right now. That's got to be worth something. Alright, let's go get something done. Alright, today's Thursday, the 20th of October, 2022. Alright, so my brain just kind of exploded for a little bit there. Well, okay, let me explain. But first, hi, I'm Carlin. And thank you for clicking my video. And yeah, I'm just reading this, so sorry. My goal here is to build some robots and show you how I'm doing it. Sure, we could just go buy something, and that would be faster, but we probably wouldn't learn as much. So for this robot, my plan is to loosely replicate the design of the NASA and JPL Mars Rovers. I'm not building any specific one exactly, but I do intend to borrow as many useful details as possible. As I get time, I'll put together a web page with links to the stuff I find, just in case you want to go look at them. Also, I'm making a playlist on my YouTube channel, and I'll link that as well. So I'll have my videos on the playlist and also videos that I'm finding, so it'll be pretty obvious which ones are which. For example, I found a full 3D model of the newest rover, Perseverance. I can just bring that into Blender or into FreeCAD and examine all the little parts. From there, I could just 3D print the whole thing if I wanted to. One problem though with 3D printing is it's pretty slow and it takes a lot of power. So I can't just print the whole robot out of plastic. I'm kind of known for making things out of scrap metal though, so that seems like a good place to start. Size and the mission for the robot are really good things to know. In the first video, I showed you the mock-up of the wheels and the cooler. That seems like a good starting point. Now, if you just looked at that, you might think I'm almost finished. No, that was just a placeholder, something to look at and get an idea for scale. I already have the tires and wheels. They are the 10-inch wheels from Harbor Freight. I probably got them with a coupon. I have 8 of them, 2 on the wheelbarrow and 6 left over for the robot. Perfect! I'll use one of my electric bike batteries to power the robot, mostly because I have 4 of those, and I know they already work well. The Mars Rovers are all 6-wheel drive with 4 steering wheels, and a really interesting suspension system. Basically, the robot doesn't seem to have any springs or actual suspension. But when the wheels on one side of the rover hit a bump, they pivot and roll over. If the rover comes to a ledge, it can climb pretty well, and the body doesn't seem to lean as far as it might otherwise. They must have liked that design, they kept using it. The Harbor Freight wheels are meant for putting on something like a cart that you pull. There isn't an obvious way to hook them up to a motor, which makes it a bit difficult. On the plus side though, they have bearings in the wheel, so we just put the wheel on an axle or a spindle. I saw a video a few years ago over at the Post-Apocalyptic Inventor. You really should check him out too. Great content over there. He made a little hub adapter that just bolts right onto the wheel using the wheel bolts that are already there. Then you attach a sprocket or a pulley to that adapter, go up to the motor, and you can drive the wheel. Slick! The next question is what to use for the motors. I don't need to try too hard, but I'd like this one to go about walking speed, maybe 3 miles an hour. Most DC motors would turn too fast. Eventually I'll probably go find a proper gear drive motor. They have built-in gear reduction drive system, so the output shaft turns maybe 100 RPM instead of 1000 RPM. Another option is something like windshield wiper motors. They have a gear reduction and they turn really slow. The bus has 2 wiper motors in it. I'll be taking them off and experimenting with those. I've also picked up some small hobby motors with gear reducers on them, so we'll see how good they are. Either way, I still need 6. I've also seen people 3D print gears like a planetary gear drive, and some of them seem to work pretty well. I think to start then, what I'll do is either use the bike trailer or the wheelbarrow. Rig up one motor on one wheel and just see how well it pulls, and then go from there. There are some details I will be spending time figuring out, to be sure. Then I started giggling one night. I can also just fake it in post. Some of my projects may not have turned out quite as well as the videos made them look. I might take kind of a Mythbusters approach. I start off the video with this epic footage of the rover, driving across the boulder pile, navigating the ranch with the help of satellites, laser blasters, and a really slick artificial intelligence running it all. Then the camera gets knocked over and we see behind the curtain. In the beginning, if I even get it standing on its own wheels without catching on fire, we'll start off pretty slow. It won't be self-driving, no fancy autopilot, probably no sensors, except for maybe a video camera just so I can see where it is. I'll use some simple hobby RC gear that I already have and we'll get it moving. Later on, I hope to get the basic chassis solid enough to use for more advanced stuff. From what I've seen on most of the robot websites where you can buy their kits, people are mostly buying a kit that looks like IKEA. You get all the bits and put it together. Easy, but not as flexible, and usually small. Maybe I could release this as a parts kit, where I could make the chassis. Then you could get a parts list. Here, I used Harbor Freight wheels. Wait for the coupon and go buy them. That would save on shipping. And grab some tool batteries while you're there. They work great too. Maybe even buy the cordless tools. Those motors would be great. Maybe I'll make the parts that are hard for someone living in the apartment to build. That's really why I moved to the ranch. I figured the welder would set off the smoke alarm. But all that's pretty far away from us here and now. At first I thought this would be easy. Then I remembered Turtle. We might be here a while. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. When I get it figured out, I'll definitely show you how. And there'll be a website, parts lists, and the code and 3D files will be open source and easy to find. Okay, gotta go. Got me some stuff to figure out.